Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ideas Sin. My name is Denise, and I am your host. And today I'm excited to bring to you Marcia. She's my wildlife tracking teacher. And so we've met through the Earth Native School. And so how are you doing today? I know today was your day off, you mentioned earlier. How's that going?
Yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's nice to have a day in the middle of the week to just relax and do fun stuff like this. So yeah, I'm great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for deciding to join. I think it's like great to hear your voice, and I always love your teachings and stuff. It's always cool to like see things from a different perspective whenever you are pointing things out. So it's great to be able to sit here and talk to you and talk about your journey into tracking and what got you into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to share that. It's been fun to think about that in preparation for talking to you. So I'm excited to share.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing tracking for? Because I know it's been like a little bit of time, and like you've established yourself as a really good tracker. So how long have you been officially tracking for?
I had my first animal tracking experience, I guess, in May of 2017. I did a weekend tracking evaluation where, kind of start from question one, and it's an in-field test, but it also works as a really great like weekend workshop for learning. And so I went into that with no training and just to kind of see what it was all about, and discovered, that I guess I knew more maybe than I thought, but definitely that there was so much more to learn. And it really just sort of sparked that interest. And I looked for more after that. Where else can I learn more? And so that led me to the tracking intensive program at Earth Native, which is where we met, which is the 8-month long, 1 weekend a month program. And we just get out and see tracks and sign of animals all across the state of Texas. So yeah, I guess it's been, What is that now? 7 years?
Yeah. So, did you already have a background in wildlife and nature and all of that? Or was this like a completely different pivot from what you were doing or studying or working on before?
I've always had an interest in nature. That was where I kind of thought, when I was young, career-wise, where I was going to go: zoology, marine biology. And things just, didn't quite work out that way. But it's always been a love. Animals have always been a love of mine. And, if I could just go out and sit in the woods and see them all day, every day, I would. But, I can't. And so luckily now tracking is the closest I can get to that. But when I moved to Texas from Seattle in 2009, I realized I kind of wanted to get into maybe landscaping or something plant related is where it started. But I never really was that interested in like just ornamental plantings. And so that kind of led me into like, what can I do more from an ecological perspective? And I learned that the state of Texas has something like, oh gosh, now I feel like I'm on the spot and I'm going to say the wrong number. So I'm just going to say thousands of native plants in the entire state of Texas. And it's really,
I would have just said a lot.
I know it's in the thousands for sure. So I felt comfortable committing to that. And I live close to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. And I'm like, well, I'm in this new area. Everything's totally different. I don't know anything about the plants or anything here as far as, what can I put in my yard and stuff like that. And so I started volunteering at the Wildflower Center. And it was there that I started learning about the native plants and then the animals in relation to the plants. And somebody there had suggested to me that I might enjoy the Texas Master Naturalist program because that is very much focused on all the ecoregions and the ecological systems in the state. And it's a volunteer organization. So a lot of the projects you do are that, focus towards either native plant gardening or interpretive hikes where you're educating the public about the, plants and trees and animals and all that around them. And so when I started volunteering with the master naturalists, I started getting into interpretive hiking. That was the thing I really wanted to volunteer doing. And through the process of leading hikes at the different state parks in the area, I started to really notice tracks and animal scat or poop are the things that I could sort of rely on the most. There's always around. I could talk to them about them on the hikes, and I was really interested in it. It really was able to bring me back to my animal focus and interest more than the plants. And so from there, it just kind of, I learned about Earth Native from somebody that I was in contact with through the Master Naturalist program. And just because kind of this build of following opportunities, I guess.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I feel like you might have mentioned that you were a master naturalist at one point, but I totally forgot. Like, that's awesome. What was that process like for you? Because you have to go through like a schooling process, right? What was that like for you back then?
Yeah, it's a pretty intensive training program. I actually wasn't able to do it until I was in a situation where I could cut my hours at my day job back. And so
Oh, really?
I was really lucky to get to a place where I could do that so that I could attend the training, because I'm trying to remember, it was 6 months of at least, I think classes were once a week on a weeknight for 3 hours. And then you have classes on weekends too. So it was a lot of training in a pretty short period of time. And but it really covers just a ton of stuff. The training that you get through that program is really amazing if you are trying to get some kind of crash course on a high level of learning the natural history of Texas. And so it really it really got me what I wanted as far as finding my place here and feeling connected to Texas and learning an appreciation for it, as opposed to, the forests and the mountains that I'm used to in Washington. So it was really great from that perspective. And then once you do the training, the volunteer situation is a little bit less taxing over the course of the year, but the training is a big commitment at first.
Were you able to kind of double up on the tracking and then the volunteer work? Would that cross over and count for you? Or was it no, you're tracking stuff or, education or whatever that you're doing with it doesn't count? Or did they actually accept it?
Yeah, they have a situation where the training, because one of the things that you have sort of a set amount of volunteer hours, and you have a set amount of advanced training, or maybe what people would consider CPE, continued professional education. And that's at around 8 hours a year, I believe. And so and I was doing a lot more tracking than that through the intensive, but that was able to be sort of counted towards my advanced training. And then once I became president of the chapter, I created a volunteer opportunity where because people were interested in tracking, but I had a little bit of a hard time because we needed more volunteer opportunities and less advanced training. And so I was like, well, how can I turn this into a volunteer opportunity where I can still educate folks and, sort of embrace the enthusiasm I was seeing for it? And so I started a volunteer program with that I called the Trash Pandas, where we would go out to a lot of the places where we track under these bridges and things along the river. And I'd talk to that. We'd look at the tracks that were there, and I'd teach them something about the tracks that we saw. And then we would go around and pick up trash. And so it really felt it was really rewarding, because it's you could see the evidence of these animals right there in that spot. And then we were doing something to really help, improve that space for them. So that was kind of how I integrated it. And then again, most of my hikes became completely track and sign based. So I kept leading hikes, and that's how I got more dirt time myself.
And while you're teaching and coaching everybody else on all of these things, how often are you actually encountering wildlife?
most part. I mean, in a lot of cases, they're working. It's a Texas Parks and Wildlife funded program. And so for the most part, you're in the state parks where the people are focusing on outreach and education for conservation purposes. So like, in a lot of places for most folks, they don't see the animals, getting to see the tracks or the sign of them that they've left behind is, kind of can be their only connection or only evidence that of all of this life that's moving around us all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't see very many animals. I'm happy with a year where maybe we actually see 2 or 3 actual animals out in the field. I mean, beyond like your common, like it's not uncommon to see deer or squirrels or, but to actually run into a coyote or a fox or a bobcat or something. It happens. There's a story every year where somebody sees something cool that the rest of the class is like, oh man.
Yeah, Big Ben, we saw Awdads. That was pretty cool. We saw him like climbing up the mountain. I guess you call it a mountain at the river bend.
Yeah, about as good as it gets.
Depends on your region, I guess. Yeah. So then your experience over in Seattle and just being around that environment and learning about the animals out there. When you came to Texas, was it easy for you to kind of pick certain things up, or was it still just as much of a learning curve as if you didn't have exposure in Seattle?
I think because it's something I've always been really interested in, I'd honed a pretty innate sense of like observation. And I think anytime you're paying close attention, you're probably going to, let me back that up a little bit. The things you find yourself paying close attention to are usually the things that interest you the most. And that so then that builds on itself. And so I think in some ways like that, I was prone to pick it up pretty quickly once I came here. Because I had kind of gone through the process up there. But as far as overlap, there was definitely not a lot of, I did not carry a lot of what I had learned in Washington to, what I was learning here in Texas, to the point where after I had gotten really good at tracking here in Texas, I went back up to Washington and did an evaluation up there just for the learning experience, because it felt very weird to me that I had become so knowledgeable here, but not kind of in this place where it all started. And so that's actually where I'm working towards getting my second specialist certification up there, as, I don't know, just kind of feels right, both homes, but it is a very different learning experience.
Yeah, because up there, you have to start accounting for the different seasons, like tracking in snow, which I'm sure is like a totally different experience than the very little snow that we actually get here in Texas. Like we don't really get that, right? I mean, what would you say are like the major, I don't want to say obvious, like not the obvious differences, but what would you say are some of the subtle differences between tracking in the two places?
I thought we struggled with substrate or, like large areas of, say, mud or sand or something here where we could, see lots of tracks in one place. The thing that I've really noticed about tracking in Washington as opposed to Texas is there's so much more animal sign in the forest. So a lot more of interpreting antler rubs on trees or vole grass clipping signs, or what was some of the other sign that just like totally wiped me? I just really found that's where I've like really like I'm very strong on track, so that when I get in, because here in Texas we don't have public lands really, right? So we can't get in these big stretches of forest where all these animals are moving around and see all these variations of the other ways that they're communicating out there, where you can do that up in Washington. And so that's really what I've noticed is the biggest difference, is that they were really light on actual animal tracks, but they're able to see so much actual other sign in the forest that is an opportunity that we don't have. And so learning to interpret all that extra information has been a fun challenge.
And as we're talking about this as well, I mean, I don't know if we've made it clear for listeners like what wildlife tracking and sign actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, like from your basic like experience and training and things, like what would be like the simplest way that you would explain what tracking is to somebody who has never been exposed to any of this?
Tracking itself is kind of an umbrella term that encompasses the skills of being able to identify and interpret the actual tracks that animals leave behind and the associated signs. So things like scratches, rubs, scats, nests. And then the other parallel skill of trailing, which is the ability to actually take the interpretation of the track and sign and be able to, from what you identify there, age and find a fresh trail and then follow that to the actual animal. My focus and what we do for the most part is the track and sign identification. I would like to get better at trailing someday. It's definitely on my bucket list, but it has not been where my focus has been yet.
Yeah.
And so that, I would say, is we go out into the field and we find a place, usually somewhere near water here in Texas. And then we look for as many tracks of as many different animals as we can find. We start to try to identify which feet. So is this the left front, right hind? And all of that in order to try to build to that story of interpreting what was the animal doing, where was it going, was it just traveling, was it doing something else? So it also really requires this breadth of knowledge around animal behavior, in addition to knowing a lot of really detailed facts about animal feet.
Yeah.
So I would say track and sign is most useful for field observations, population status monitoring, things like that, where you're just really trying to see who's here. Is there too much of somebody? Is there not enough of somebody? And things like that, more so than the act of finding a fresh deer trail and following that until you find that actual deer.
You saying that, it just reminds me of different areas and regions where they're overpopulated with certain animals. And so there's different laws that are implemented where it's like, yeah, hunting season, and you just kind of go wild with it. Do you think that tracking and, I don't know, maybe like some of these other efforts are helping to balance that out? Or do you still think that there's still like a huge imbalance in that? Because it still feels like there's a lot of people who are like, no, there's still a ton of wild hogs out here and we still have to go on these like shooting sprees. I mean, I hear that there's helicopter like hunting trips and stuff out here. Like I haven't been on one, but do you think that that's just like a cyclical thing that's going to continue to happen? Or do you think that in time things will kind of balance out? I think I incorporated like a few questions in there, so take your time.
I think that hunting in a number of cases is an important part of maintaining that balance in places where some things are overpopulated. White-tailed deer, hogs, things of that nature. Because I mean, we're an animal on the landscape like any other animal, and we're an apex predator in our environment. Now we can make consciously different choices, and some of us do and whatnot. But in some ways, we are maintaining animal populations as well. But what I would like to see tracking, or this kind of like track and sign identification, really help with is things like being able to properly identify predators in regard to kill sites. So when ranchers get upset about, losing livestock, somebody can go in and appropriately assess the situation and try to figure out who actually did it, which, sorry, feral dogs, but it's usually you.
Oh,
I don't want to get canceled by the feral dog community or anything. Because I think there are a lot of animals that get a really bad rap when they're not really always the problem. And so that's what I would like to see as far as like helping bring some of the animal population back. Because then there's like the other side of the story, right? Like bears have ended up becoming like on the other side of protected. I guess I can name names. The first, I'm concerned about the mountain lion situation. Mountain lion are classified in Texas as vermin, which means they have no hunting season.
Oh, really?
There's no season. There's no reporting. There's nothing. You can shoot them anytime they're on your property. You don't have to tell anybody. And so this is just my, opinion on looking at the situation. I feel like mountain lions are one of the animals that could control the feral hog problem. They're one of the only animals big enough to be able to take an animal of that size down. And so I think in some ways, if we can, shift the mentality from, mountain lion bad because it takes maybe a calf here and there, to mountain lion good because it maintains the hog population and it saves me a lot of money from my pastures being torn up, and then I break my tractor going through a bumpy pasture. So I don't know if that exactly answers what you were asking, but I feel like that's kind of a way that we can apply this to maybe help with some of those imbalances that we're seeing kind of create some disruptions in the system.
And so I don't really know how like any of the hunting laws or regulations are ever put in place, but how are they determining these like assumptions? So like you noted, like, they now classified mountain lion as vermin. Like, how did they get to that idea or conclusion? Like, did they actually have evidence to base that? Like, where exactly are they getting these assumptions or these beliefs from? If you know, because I don't want to assume you know either.
I mean, I don't know directly. And I guess I don't want to start trying to like, I don't know, put my own biases on top of it, maybe around like who has an agenda here to get certain laws passed and who doesn't. But
there's always an agenda. There's always an agenda. I feel it.
So, I mean, I definitely, would point at politics. But I mean, I don't know that they, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I guess with a lot of these folks have a lot of topics to learn things about. And so, they have advisors come in that have maybe different ideas and point to something that they may in all good faith think is that thing. I think we've just sort of found that over the course of time, as there have become more people that are more educated on this specific stuff, because this is a topic that really, I mean, it's probably sort of been resurrected in North America since like when Mark Elbrock brought the cyber tracker program over in North America. I think that's really like sparked and this renaissance of learning about this topic, because there weren't really any field guides before he brought it over. Like Mark Elbrock's really, written, his name's on almost every single book. And so I think that, there's now a new educational path to being able to identify or at least interpret that evidence more confidently than maybe we could in the past before, we had the resources we have now. So maybe people just look at certain things and couldn't imagine that a dog could possibly do that. It must have been something bigger. Well, what's the bigger thing around here? And then, we just kind of go from there.
It's the Yetis out there,
right.
Or I guess it's hard because I think about it and it's like the classes that we take. I love doing these tracking courses because every time I go outside, like I'm constantly learning new information. And, I was raised in the suburbs and city for the most part, when my family moved over to the States. And my family, my parents, they were not outdoorsy people. So we were always stuck inside in an apartment. And so everything was always very much like, be careful. You don't know what's going to happen. You go outside in the woods and some bear is going to kill you. And it's always like an extreme fear that's been taught in a lot of different places. And I think, there's like a lot of cultural and background information on different populations just trying to instill fear to really push for security and safety and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the information that I've learned has allowed me to become more comfortable just being outside and being like, yeah, I could be out in nature and I understand what animals are out here and what could actually harm me. And if anything now, the thing that scares me the most is other people. Like that's the thing that scares me the most. And so it feels like having more programs like this to educate others would really help with a lot of the problems that we have with the nature and conservation and things like that. I mean, do you see an increase in programs popping up in the future for this, or do you think it's going to slowly take a little more time for people to even get interested in this? I know you mentioned earlier it's like popping up more in the US, but how's it look in the future? You think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I can see, especially I think the pandemic was a really big wake up call for a lot of people as far as like what you're really missing when you're kind of trapped in your home. And ever since then, we get a lot of people in our classes where they're, when we ask like, well, what brought you here today? Their answer, most of the time now is connection, more connection. I want to understand what's around me more. I got outside and I saw these things and realized I didn't know anything about any of it, and I want to. And so that's really hopeful. That makes me really hopeful to see that that's what's driving folks now to want to know more about this. And so I think if that shift kind of is a permanent one, I think we'll see more and more people continue to be curious about this topic and about the other things around them. Yeah, I think human society in some ways is just becoming very, closed, and people are, kind of waking up to like, wow, there's just all these other things that maybe I can focus on and kind of get my head out of like my day to day or whatever the internet's screaming at me today, or, that kind of thing, and focus on the stories of other things. So that makes me hopeful. I think what you were saying too, I'm hoping that I think there has been a lot of othering of the outdoors. That's dangerous. We're safe inside of our houses. And I think we're seeing kind of a backlash to that too. And so hoping more people will feel empowered and realize that, yeah, once you know what's going on out there, it's not scary. There's, here we're very lucky. We don't have to, other than, snakes, don't ever forget about snakes. But for the most part, we don't, it's not South Africa tracking, we don't have to worry about a lot of those big dangerous mammals.
Yeah.
So I hope that more and more people just, feel the urge to reconnect, and I hope to see it keep growing. I guess I'm hopeful.
Yeah. I mean, and for you, do you think that I guess your overall experience, do you think that that's brought you more connection and more community in your life through pursuing these programs and your interests as well?
Yeah, for sure. At first I was like, well, with the animals, yeah, definitely. I feel a lot, like more understanding
Yeah.
about the movement and the rhythm and the patterns in my backyard. But yeah, I mean, when I really get down to the human part of it too, I mean, most of my friend group is now people I've met tracking. And I mean, I think it's just like anything else that once, I hear all the time, once you find your tribe, then you just know when you find people that are your people. And I've definitely found that in the folks that are really interested in this particular topic.
Yeah. Yeah. That has been really cool, is just seeing the different people that come and take this class. It's like people from totally different backgrounds, and they're like, I'm interested in learning this and this and that. And just like, oh, wow, man, like people are traveling from out of state for these courses too, which I think is amazing. I'm just like, oh, crap. Like that's like a big thing. If you're going to travel out of state to do a course like this, like that just shows that, one, the school's doing something right. And two, like it's that impactful for our community. And hopefully it begins to spread to other parts of the US and who knows, maybe the world too. I mean, would you ever track in any other locations outside of the US?
Oh my gosh, yes, I hope to, for sure. I mean, yeah, I'd love to go to Costa Rica, track down there. I'd love to go to South Africa. One of them, I mean, I would need to research one of the many places where you can go there. I would love to do a walking safari there. I think that'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I saw one of the first places I ever saw a fox was in London. And so I feel like I kind of can check that box. Like I tracked in Europe.
London.
They also have badgers that live in Kew Gardens there. And so I was like, oh, there's badger sign here too. Great. Tracking in London. And that's what I love about it. That's one of the things that I like taking people tracking even in the middle of downtown Austin, is because it's just like, you don't have to go out miles away from the city to find this stuff. These animals are right here in these urban areas, and they've just adapted to living around us in a lot of cases. And if you know where to go, you can just, it's just get be blown away by the amount of animal sign. I had a class I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now. And it was one of my intro weekend classes. And, I do like the first half of that's lecture, and then we do a little tracking on the first afternoon. And then really it's just mainly the second day of tracking. And we saw 20 tracks and sign of 23 species in just that
that's really good.
In just that day and a half. And, to your question earlier, how many animals do you actually see? I mean, that's like a thing I like to pose. I'm like, okay, guys, how many animals do we actually see this weekend? And usually it's like a dove or a squirrel. And so, but then to be like, but we were able to see, evidence of 23 different species in this one. Usually we're just under a bridge, so it's even a pretty small square footage. I just think is so cool. And then once you start being able to see that, you just see it everywhere. And that's what I see people get so excited about. It's like these stories that are just around us everywhere unfold. It's like you get a secret decoder ring.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'm like right here next to the grain belt. And so just the other day I went out for like a little hike / trail run, and I'm like walking, and then I like look down and I'm like, oh, there's a track. And then I like look at it and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I see human foot here. I'm like making the connections, and I'm looking at everything, and I determined it was a domestic dog. But there was another one where I was like, oh, this one's fingery. Could it be this? So it is really cool. I find that tracking has allowed me to, just within your own learning process, it feels like I've been able to just tune in so much more and pick up like micro details to different things that I've never never typically would pay attention to. I mean, for you, what was your learning process like? Because I know you mentioned before, like, what was it like? You never studied or you never wrote things down?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that was one of the reasons I knew like this was the thing for me, because it just, I would be told something and that was it. And, we're like, do you see this and this and how, this raccoon track is different from this and this possum track? And yep, that's it. Okay, great. I've got it. So yeah, I have not taken well, I don't want to say a single note. That's probably not totally true. I have probably written 2 or 3 things down. But yeah, I don't take notes. I don't learn that way. I really learn a lot better from just listening and kind of thinking about stuff. Mm-hmm. And so just really paying attention, though. I mean, I think that, I see lots of and there are, we have lots of people that do write a lot of things down. And I am supportive of that in some ways, because I know that that is an important, tactile way of learning, that, handwriting something and moving it through your brain, through your hand onto paper. But at the same time, I think people crutch on notes sometimes too much and don't just stop and look and take it in. And because so much of tracking is a visual skill, you're really trying to build this filing system of images, and you have a folder for raccoon tracks and you have a folder for deer tracks. And you're trying to get as many like visual patterns like built up in that. So when you see something weird on the ground, you can try to match it to something you've seen before. And if you're lost in your notes, you may remember the facts, but you're going to lose a lot of that visual learning buildup that you really can only get from the dirt time. You can read the books and take notes from the books or highlight or something. Because I mean, I appreciate the compliments and things, but I'm just repeating a lot of what I learned in the books. I did do the readings. I will say that. Yeah. I did. We have, a number of reading, not assignments. We don't like to call them that, because it really is just like supplemental learning. If you have time and your interest and here's more you can do. So I did do all the readings because it was a lot of really behavioral based. And I knew that would be important to understand behavior. But yes, I chose the learning route of really looking at these things and seeing them when I had the opportunity to see them, and then reading about stuff, the details of all that stuff when back home when, it's 105 degrees in the middle of summer and you can't actually get out traffic at all.
Yeah. So how often do you think students come into this like completely new and they just have no idea what kind of learner they are? Like, what is their learning style? Do you think that some people just naturally gravitate towards their way of learning, or do you think that they kind of jump into notes right away and then their natural style comes out? Or have you seen that in students?
The thing that I like about how we try to encourage learning in our program is a really, relax, like find what works for you way. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people's first go-to is just what we've been trained in school, which, the teacher's talking, you better write notes down and then use your notes to study for your test later. And so I think it takes students a long time, maybe sometimes the whole first year, which is why sometimes I think maybe people do it multiple years, to realize they can kind of let that go. Like, I'm not expecting anything from them. There isn't a right way to do it. And I mean, I'm also not, expecting a certain level of effort. Like, if you're just coming to show up as like a fun experience and you don't really care if you retain any of the learning and you just are like, I want to get outside. Cool. Like, that's fine with me. And then same, on the flip end of that, if like you're really serious about it and you really want to get good at it, I'm going to pick up on that and I'll support that too and do what I need to do with that. But But I think there's like a whole middle ground of folks that, yeah, feel like there is only one way to learn, and
Mm.
take some time to break out of that. Because again, like at school, unlike tracking, school is a very like word based thing. You think in words, your brain is forming words, you're writing and forming words. So to roll back to that more primitive way of learning through observation and stuff definitely takes people some time to break the habit of what we teach people to do. This is learning.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting because now when I think about it, when you're first introduced to it, it's like, do you see these marks on the ground? This is a track, and you're like, oh yeah, I see stuff. Like, like it's just like learning to see again. Like, yeah, tapping out into the visual. It's like you're learning to see, and then you're really learning to see, and then see all the little details and things like that. And so it is really interesting. Like, I do that too. Every once in a while, I'll step back and I just kind of see how people are like moving and observing, and they step really close, or they move back, or are they switching angles? Are they looking at it from different perspectives? And it is kind of cool to see how they've been progressing over time and what their natural style is. Um, and then for you, as you continue to grow within your own tracking journey, do you find that your learning process is like changing or evolving in any way? Or do you think that it's still kind of like the same routine observational approach?
Once you have to start, well, have to, once you get to start teaching, that really adds a whole new level of learning. Um, and I mean, thankfully, we say kind of from day one with tracking, like this is a multiple lifetime skill to learn. Like, so within my whole lifetime, there's no way I'm going to learn everything. And the only way I've learned as much as I have up to this point is by taking, kind of some other people who've shaved the learning curve off for me. And so as I teach, sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit.
That's okay.
But with that in mind, that also means like I have to fight it sometimes, but it makes it easier to keep my ego out of it. And so I'm constantly learning in a different way now, but I'm learning from my students and what they think to ask and their perspectives to come up with questions that I haven't thought to ask myself. You mentioned we have somebody who, right now who's traveling from out of state, and he's a really skilled tracker where he lives. And so he's bringing a ton of information in. Again, of just wait from the people he's learned from in the past, because he travels everywhere and has learned from a lot of different trackers. And so he's able to bring that information in and make me better as a result. And so I think that's really where a lot of my learning is coming from now is, this is a particularly tough topic to teach too, because it's not like I get to like set out a lesson plan or anything. Like we go out into the field, we wander around for a while, I find what I find, and we talk about it. And sometimes, I mean, we have to say, I don't know, because either it's at the edge of my abilities or we just don't have enough evidence. But a lot of the times, like the conversations that we have and the things people consider while trying to get to an answer and all of those things really open me up in a way that is so important for learning this. Because we say like, you have to ultimately we're trying to get to an answer of like, is it a raccoon or whatever? But you have to start from this like total judgment free open place of it could be, any animal. And I'm trying to work this funnel without, confirmation bias. And so that process of, well, what could it be? Or what if it was this? Or what if it moved like that through here? Really just, that's how you become a better tracker at a certain point, because that's where the interpretation part of things. And yeah, you're exposed to people who think like you or unlike you. And so are able to bring stuff that you just wouldn't think to teach yourself, I guess is.
Mm.
But
And so
Oh,
what?
I was gonna say, I still
Oh,
go
go
out
ahead.
and, work my own process on my own sometimes too, though. I mean, and just kind of the way I always have. And when I go to other areas and learn there, I mean, it's just like when I first started here. So,
Yeah. So at what point did you think, yeah, I want to start teaching this? Like how for individuals, I guess this can apply to any area really is like at what point like for you maybe and maybe for other individuals, I don't know, but like what point do you determine like I want to teach? I want to teach this now. Like I feel confident enough to step up to teach. Like is that a certain thing that everybody hits, like a certain idea or confidence level, or is that just kind of, oh, it just comes to you at some point?
I had a little bit of experience teaching in the past. I have trained dogs and puppies. I used to teach basic obedience classes for puppies, like tiny little puppies. It was super fun.
Aw.
Um, so I had some experience in that regard. And even that was such a fun topic and never felt like teaching. It just feels like these people are coming to us interested in information, and it's something I'm really enthusiastic about. And so I want to share it with them. As far as teaching the classes that I took now, I just wouldn't go away. And so
Yeah.
Dave was finally like, well, I guess I'll start paying you. I mean, I say that jokingly, but I mean, that kind of was, I had kept wanting to do the tracking intensive. I didn't want to not have, I wanted to have a regular excuse to go tracking and to track with other people. And I really enjoyed the community so much and the people I had met after looking for so long for, something that really just sort of fit like this. And so it just kind of became a natural fit. The program grew at the exact time that basically my skill set was good enough to be able to start teaching other people. Basically, I mean, yes, you have to kind of remember how to explain all the things, but really a big part of it is just knowing you'll recognize most of the stuff in the field that you're going to find and can explain it confidently to folks. So that's kind of, as the program grew, we needed more instructors. And so I took it for 3 years, and then I was a teaching assistant my 4th year. And then I started teaching it the 5th year. And now I've been teaching the tracking intensive for 3 years. So I just didn't want to stop doing it. And the only way I could keep doing it was to start teaching.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool.
And I love sharing it.
Yeah.
I really do love like getting to just see other people get so excited and watch their learning and see what people bring to it and what they ultimately take away from it compared to what they thought they were going to get from it.
That's a cool aspect too. It's like, oh, wow, I learned something different than I expected. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's cool because sometimes like in the classes, especially now, like I'll like step back every once in a while and I just like to observe people or just when we're in our discussions and I'm not trying to call anybody like childish or anything, but it's like the way that people get excited. It's like little kids again, just being like, oh, and it's this and this and this. And it's just really cool to see that adults are just really excited about something. Like they're genuinely excited. It's not like a fake excited. Like I don't know how to describe it, but do you see that within your own students, like that just genuine, innocent excitement build up, or am I just like observing it?
No, I mean, I think that is one of the things that that makes this so special is I think it really does tap into a childlike sense of discovery and like almost like treasure hunting on the landscape in a way. You get to like find these cool special things that not everybody, is going to recognize or would be able to find. And so I think there is a lot of that we've minimized. I don't want to say lost, that maybe we've minimized in our kind of day-to-day adult lives of go to work and go to the gym and pay your bills and make dinner. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, like people get out there and there is something just so freeing about kind of being able to put all that other stuff away and just lean into the exploration and discovery of it all. Yeah, because who knows what we're going to find out there, and that's half the fun.
hmm Yeah. And our first trip to Big Bend, we found so many different tracks. It was just so cool. You were like, we've never come across this yet. Yeah, it was just really exciting to see that. It is. It's really amazing to just be able to tap into it. And as a teacher as well, because we're talking about like a lot of this excited energy on the teaching aspect, like how do you help to balance and maintain that energy? Because I know sometimes like when we see something, it's like everybody wants to jump in and it's like, how do you maintain that for yourself and find balance to deal with like the overwhelm of excitement?
Yeah, there's definitely usually some kind of inner monologue that's happening that's trying to like weigh, okay, there are some people that are here and are very serious about this, and I don't want them to be, distracted or feeling like, the group's not focused enough. But then I don't want to crush anybody's spirit at the same time because I do recognize that it's coming from a place of enthusiasm and excitement. For me, in a lot of those cases, I'll just I'll typically redirect to that person if I can. And either, sometimes I'll ask them if there's something that someone wants to see. I carry flags with me that like little colored, like utility flags that you would see if you called to like have your plumbing flagged. And so I'll like hand them a flag and I'll be like, drop a flag in it and we'll make sure we talk about it, so that they know like it's held and they can let their brain relax in that regard. They're going to get the answer that they want. They're just going to have to wait a minute till we finish what we're talking about over here. So sometimes I'll do that. Other times I'll just kind of redirect and ask them to maybe talk about what we are looking at and what they know about it. But for the most part, this is a fun thing. Like I'm just going to kind of like try to read the group. And if the group seems to just sort of be enjoying debating amongst themselves, and that's what I like when I get to teach the advanced group, so the students who have done it, 2 or more years, that's really fun for me because that is the point where I can, like, they know enough to get into like the deep kind of nitty gritty conversations that I can just sort of sit back, and if I find them that I'm fighting to talk over them, I'll just sort of back out and let them have the conversation and be like, okay, I'm going to wait till you guys come to a consensus on this. You tell me when you're done. And I listen to it. I don't just like walk away and take a break or something. I listen to what they're saying. But that's kind of a fun way to channel that energy, is like, well, great. You guys want to talk about it? Go ahead and talk about it. I don't need to be the one that talks about it.
Yeah.
I'll make sure you don't go too far, into left field with it. But I'm happy to hear the debate. I think it's fun. It's fun to hear, what is sticking for folks and things like that.
And have you ever taught children tracking? I don't think there's a kids tracking course yet, right?
No, I think they teach it in some of the youth classes at Earth Native, but not like in a major way, just like an afternoon. I did a few children events or outreach events for kids as part of my Master Naturalist volunteer opportunities. And that's fun. It's harder for kids to make that abstract connection between the animal that was there. And then they're like, well, cool, where's the animal? Well, no, they're not here anymore. And so that's, but, I have, it is fun. Like when I show up with the skulls or the pelts or the plaster casts, and they can make like stamps or something. Those are kind of some fun ways to kind of start to make the same connections with kids that isn't quite the same, like just, nose to the dirt, counting toes and looking at claws and things like that we do.
Yeah. And do you think that there's a certain aspect of the way kids learn that's a bit different from adults? Like, for example, will kids pick up some type of detail that adults tend to typically miss? Or even vice versa, I guess, but
I mean, I don't know how much I can, I don't know that I have enough experience to really like answer that too competently. Um, I mean, I think
yeah.
maybe my general comment on it would be that kids often come with a more open mind, a more questioning mind, less impulse to just rush to an answer than I would say adults do. And so they don't have to like break that habit before they can kind of get to the point of walking into the situation without judgment. So in some ways, the kids that do find it interesting, you know, like anything with kids, you know, and they find something interesting, their brains are just going to absorb it like a sponge. But I have just found in general, it's a little more of an abstract a little bit more of an abstract concept for them to connect in a way that they're excited about.
Mm. Yeah, that is cool. I haven't worked with kids in a little bit. And usually I volunteer and I do things with kids, especially in the past. A lot of sport activities, which was always fun to like just get them to do, go do this training, go run around, go do, that's always really fun. So I could only imagine like teaching in more confined areas, just like, all right, really focus, hone in the energy, like relax.
Yes.
Especially for some more of the energetic kids. I can only imagine that what that adventure is like. But yeah, I mean, do you see tracking really just picking up more over like the upcoming years as we begin to focus on more like natural conservation efforts? And like, do you see trackers getting pulled into those conversations more? If you already know if they are already involved, like I'm not sure, but
We're going to hopefully see more field biologists do the kind of training that we do in order to really get solid in their field observations. And that was really like the point and the start of Cyber Tracker International to begin with, which is sort of the model for how we teach. And then it's the certification program that we end up following in order to kind of gauge our in-field skill set. And it was because, a lot of people would say they knew what something was, and then when asked to prove it, they weren't correct. And again, I think in a lot of cases, it's just due to a lack of resources. But luckily, we've kind of filled that gap in a lot of ways now that I think that we're going to see a lot more reliable tracking, which I hope I think in some ways, like track and sign interpretation has maybe, how do I put this? Been pulled into a more of an art than a science. That's maybe a good way to say it. And so I think, people that you say tracking, they maybe think of like putting your ear to the earth and feeling, like somehow being able to sense how the animal moved through here. And
yeah.
So I think maybe in some ways there's kind of like a little eye roll around it that I might like to see as people realize like, oh, this system really is based on biological, morphological fact of how we identify these things. And we can tell you exactly what it is based on, looking at its foot. And so that's kind of my hope for it, is that it becomes maybe more respected because we can like measure it and test people on it now. And so we start to see it becoming more of what's expected from our professionals in the field. That would be my hope.
If anybody were to get into tracking or was interested in nature or exploring anything like that, but they were like hesitant and they're like, well, I don't know this and that. Like, is there anything that you would advise them on or give them tips on to kind of wrap things up?
And definitely just, get out there. Don't be intimidated by what's out your front or back door. I I think that a lot of people would be surprised the type of folks that, are taking these classes. I mean, I hear a lot, oh, I expected it to just be a bunch of hunters or,
Mhm.
rancher. I don't know, just some sort of like, really aggro kind of environment. And the thing that I really loved about it is just we're just a bunch of like nature nerds. It's just a bunch of software developers and, researchers and trying to think about, like just all it's definitely not an intimidating group of folks. So like if you're thinking like wilderness school and like survival skills and trekking and like it can, it sounds a little kind of, intimidatingly prepper maybe sometimes. And that's just
Mhm.
so not the vibe at all. So, if you're even remotely curious about it, I think that it's really something worth, trying out and seeing, seeing if you connect with it, seeing if you connect with the community. Um, but yeah, just don't be scared. I mean, kind of like you said, at the beginning of this, in some ways, people are kind of the most intimidating thing around us, ironically, given how much time and effort and energy we put into building these bubbles around us to insulate us from nature. And,
Mhm.
nature is chaos. And I don't think humans do very well with that concept. Um, so, in some ways, I would say embrace that because that's part of being an animal on this planet.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. We are still animals on this planet.
Yes, we are still on this planet for the most part.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Uh, Hopefully we still have a few more years, knocking on
Yeah.
wood.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's really great. I feel like I have learned so much, and just diving in and going in through my first year and then coming back in my second year, it's really cool to see all the different ways that you can observe nature and you can observe the world around you. And coming back out of it, I go and I'm like so much more observant to my environment and society and like of people and actions. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Like it's amazing how much of it translates over to your everyday life without you really even thinking about it. You're like, oh man, I never noticed this little ridge on my cup. It's like the
Yeah.
tiniest things.
Yeah, there's no way to get a surprise past me at this point. I notice everything, every little change, every little adjustment. Yeah, I pick up on all of it. Yeah, you can't turn it off once it starts. And that's what's
Right.
great. I think that's what so many people find surprising about it is how much of an impact it really does have outside of just getting to go outside and learn about animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just really appreciate you teaching and sharing your passion with us, because you have so much insight and you teach just very openly and in such a way that, we don't feel stupid when we are asking questions. Cause there's plenty of times where I'm like, I don't know, or I feel stupid, or I feel like I should be seeing something, but I'm not. And you're just like very open and accepting of everything. And I think that that's so important for people who are going into learning something for the first time. And, in some areas, some teachers, unfortunately, they don't facilitate that for their students. And then the student falls off. And so I think it's like instructors like you that are really going to help advance this knowledge and this field in tracking, and just help us to continue to build community and continue to build connection within ourselves and nature and everything like that. So I just want to say that I like really appreciate your teachings, and I'm always excited to go in. And I know I'm definitely one of those students that every once in a while I'll be like, just wander off like, look at this one. But it's just really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, I appreciate that. And if anything, I mean, I hope to it makes me sad that people are scared of flirting. And so just hearing maybe I can even just undo some of that anxiety and stress around that for folks. So, because, that's never going to help anybody learn if you're stressed out. Stressed brain doesn't retain anything.
Yeah.
So I really just, I appreciate that a lot. Feels good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And for our listeners as well, I know that I'm going to include like a lot of the different links to the books and different pieces of inspiration that you had added on here. So thank you as well for sharing a lot of that. Like that's really awesome. And so anybody who's interested in learning more about tracking and just like the different ways of learning, I'm going to have that information available. Definitely feel free to go explore. There's definitely like a few nature schools out throughout the US, right? It's not just in Texas or in the East or in the West. Because I feel like there's only like the three major ones that I know of. I'm sure there's like a lot more, right?
The thing about it, I think and whether or not it's just kind of the circle that, like, we're sort of in a circle of folks that have kind of learned from each other and then branched out and built something for themselves in different areas. As far as I know right now, the biggest nature schools are in Western Washington. There are two big ones up there. Oh gosh, again, I know that being put on the spot, I'm going to say it wrong. I believe it's Wilderness Awareness School and Alderleaf. Alderleaf something.
Yeah, Alderleaf, I think, yeah.
And then I know that there's, kind of a big community up in the Northeast. I think there are, a few nature skills. But what, if you're even just wanting to, and this may be one of the things that you have, the tracker certification.com link, but that really has a calendar that details, all the different evaluations that go on around the country everywhere. So you can find something in your area. And that usually is the easiest and most convenient way to do a weekend workshop, is to find one of these cyber tracker evaluations and go do that in your area. You're going to learn from an amazing tracker. All of the evaluators through that program are incredible. And, just put all the test anxiety away. Just don't even think about it as a test. It kind of, you basically, you grow through and you'll do like a set of questions. And even if you don't know what they are, you'll learn about that set before doing the next set. And so it's kind of cool that you can build on the learning over the weekend. And those happen all over the country. So that would be, is for people to not think just because it's an evaluation that can end in a certification, that means, you shouldn't do it. Like, go do it. It's a great way to get involved wherever you are.
Yeah. And the first eval that I did last year at the end of the first course, it was, like it just felt like any other tracking day. We were able to connect. The evaluator came in and would explain what it was like after we all had answered. And it was just very casual and you learned so much more. And there's always, for some of us, we're like, we want to get that certification. But at the end of the day, it's like, put your ego aside and it's just like, just go learn and like have fun and connect and explore. And it's a great way to learn. So I agree. Well, thank you so much, Marcia. I really appreciate you sharing your story and spending time with me today and really diving into the history of like how you got into this and what excites you in teaching and expanding out in nature. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. Just, getting to talk to you and share. And I hope it inspires people to get out there and hang out with some animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll be fun. Next week, I'll see you in Monaghan Sandhills.
Yeah. Basically, the best thing to do out there is tracking. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, and then that's like another little plug too. If anybody's in the Texas area and wants to explore different parts of Texas and you're just not sure where to go, joining classes like this also allows us to take these group trips to really beautiful and unique parts of Texas. And you get to explore nature and those environments. And that's really allowed me to explore. And I appreciate that. So anybody who's into it should definitely like check it out as well.
Yeah, I've really developed an appreciation for the state through taking these trips too, and just seeing stuff I never would have seen otherwise. And so I'm excited. I look
Yeah,
forward to
me
seeing
too.
you next weekend. Right? Next
Yeah.
weekend. Well, I guess not this coming weekend. Yeah, next week.
Yeah. Next weekend. Oh, and thank you so much to our listeners as well. I always appreciate your time, and feel free to check out the links in the bio. So until next time, thank you all so much.